Let us understand differences between diagrams and graphs in this session. So before going to make some differences in between diagrams and graphs, first we should understand clearly the meaning of diagrams. So one of the main functions of statistics is to simplify complex the data. So in order to make the simplification of the collected information, so the statisticians or the investigators have to present the collected data through means of statistical the methods, tools and techniques like diagrams, graphs, um, and then circle maps, pictorials, cartograms and other such things. So thereby the statistical investigators and users, statisticians and other people, businessmen and other, they easily make understand, and they can understand easily, and they can make some conclusions, and they can arrive some conclusions, and they can take some decisions on the basis of the presented informations through diagrams and graphs. So therefore a diagram is a visual forum for presentation of the statistical the data. Diagram refers to the various types of devices, such as bars, circles, maps, pictorials, cartograms, etc. So therefore diagram, it is a statistical the method or tool which is used for representation of the statistical the data. So therefore it is a visual forum for presentation of the statistical the information, and the informations can be represented through diagrams, like bars. There are various types of devices such as bars, circles, maps, uh, pictorials, cartograms, etc. So therefore these devices can take many attractive forms. So strictly speaking, that these are not graphic devices, but these do not add any new meaning to the statistical the facts, but they exhibit the results more clearly. So an ordinary man can understand pictures and diagrams more easily than the figures. So therefore the use of diagrams is becoming more and more popular in the present time. So therefore diagrams occupy an important place. So now the meaning of graphs. So graphic graphs or graphic presentation, this is another the statistical the device or method or tool in which the collected the informations can be presented. So graphic presentation of a numerical data is becoming popular because of the various merits. So a graph is a visual forum. This is also a visual forum of presentation, and graphs are drawn on a special type of paper known as graph paper, and each graph paper has thick horizontal and vertical lines for each division of a centimeter, and thin lines for smaller parts of the same. So therefore a graph is divided into four quadrants, but normally the first quadrant is used. So therefore graphic presentation is also another, it is also a method of method of presenting the statistical the informations, or the statistical the data. Now let us know the differences between diagrams and graphs. So there are many differences in between diagrams and graphs. So diagrams are very attractive, very attractive to eyes, and hence they are invariably used in advertisement and publicity. This is the first difference of difference in between diagram and graph. Diagrams are very attractive. They are very attractive to eyes, and hence they are invariably used in advertisement, for making advertisement and publicity. So whereas in case of a graph, but graphs are not attractive to eyes, and hence they are not used in advertisement and publicity. They are not attractive, and they are not used in they are not used in advertisement and publicity. And second difference of a diagram and graph is that diagrams do not add anything to the meaning of the data, and hence they cannot be used by statisticians or research scholars in further analysis of the data. So therefore diagrams, they do not add anything, so we cannot add anything to the meaning of the data, and thereby it cannot be used by statistical investigators or the research scholars for further analysis of the statistical data. So but graphs make the data more meaningful, and hence they are very much used by statisticians and research scholars in the analysis and interpretation of the data. Now, diagrams create a effective and long-lasting impression in the minds of on in the minds of outlook in the minds of the lookers, in the minds of the users, in the minds of onlookers. So diagrams create effectiveness, and it has long lasting impression in the minds of the data users, diagram users, and investigators, and the statisticians. But graphs do not create such impression in the minds of the statistical investigators or the users. So another difference in between diagrams and graphs, or diagrams help us in making comparison between the data. So in diagrams we can make comparisons from one data to another data. We can make comparison easily, but graphs help us in studying cause and effect relationship between two variables. But in graphs, so we can make some here graphs can be used for studying. They can be used graphs can be used for studying cause and effect relationship between two variables, but diagrams can be used for comparison between between the data, one set of data to another set of data. Diagrams are better drawn on plain papers, so we can draw diagrams only diagrams on plain papers, so plain without much taking some risk, but graphs are accurately drawn on graph papers. The graphs can be drawn only on graph papers or graph sheets. Diagrams are rarely used to present frequency distributions. So, diagrams can be used rarely for presenting frequency distributions, whereas in case of a graph, graphs are mostly used to present such distributions. Such frequency distributions can be used frequently. Diagrams never present any mathematical relationship between the variables. Diagrams never present any mathematical relationship in between variables, variable x and variable y, so like that. But graphs always present mathematical relationship between the variables, variable x, variable y, x-axis and y-axis, variable x, variable y. So x-axis can be drawn on horizontal line, and y-axis oy can be drawn on vertical line. So it cannot be used for interpretation and extrapolation technique. Diagrams cannot be used for interpolation. These cannot be used for interpolation and extrapolation technique, but graphs can help can help can help in interpretation and extrapolation techniques. It is helpful in interpolation and extrapolation techniques. So interpolation, extrapolation, and averages, and other averages, and other the things like time series, median, uh, and other the things, correlation, regression. These are the statistical, the tools and techniques which are used for the presenting the data. So therefore graphs helpful in interpretation and extrapolation techniques. Now, median and mode cannot be estimated in case of diagram, but the value of median and mode can be estimated in a graph. Data are presented by bars, rectangles, but data are presented by points or lines of different kinds, like dots, dashes, etc. Bars and rectangles can be used for presenting the data in a diagram, but dots, dashes can be, or points or lines of different kinds, like dots, dashes can be used for presenting data in a graph. So it is appropriate and effective to represent one or more variables. So diagrams most the appropriate and effective to represent one or more variables, but graphs which create some problems for representing one or more variables. Presentation of data through diagram is not easier. So presentation of data through means of diagram is not easier, but presentation of data through graphs is easier. So this is another the difference in between diagrams and graphs. So diagrams are used for sake of comparison, but not for studying the relationship between variables. So diagrams are used for the sake of comparison, but not for studying the relationship between two variables, x and y. But graphs help us to study the mathematical relationship between two variables, such as price and demand, income and consumption, time and population, income and consumption, time and population. So these are the various the variable, uh, price, demand, so and income and consumption, time and population. So these variables the relationship of the mathematical relationship of these variables can be studied in graph, but it's not possible in diagram. But the diagrams can be used for the sake of comparison, but not for studying. So diagrams can be represented as an approximate idea. So diagrams can be represented as an approximate idea, but graphs cannot be represented as an approximate idea. But particular and exact idea must be involved, and exact idea must be involved for creating graph. So therefore diagrams can be represented as an approximate idea, but it's not possible create uh, to create a graph by having some approximate idea. So there should be an exact idea through which we can create graphs. So therefore graphs cannot be represented as an approximate idea. It means there should be an exact or accurate data should be exact idea should be involved for representing the graph. So therefore these are diagrams and graphs are very much the very much and important, the statistical, the methods or tools which are to be used by economists and business people, businessmen in business and corporate sectors, because of analyzing the data and comparisons of one set of data to another set of data, and taking the various the decisions and forming fiscal policy and other monetary policies and other such policies, and also to take the various decisions for the development of the economy and for the development of business organization, and to frame certain the policies for the development of the society. So therefore these are the various differences between graphs and diagrams. So therefore these both diagrams and graphs are very essential and important tools in statistics. These are statistical the tools and methods which are to be used by statisticians for representing the collected statistical the data.